In today's video, I want to give you a very quick update with regard to the new taxation that was introduced by KRA at the beginning of July. But since that introduction, there has been a series of events that have taken place, and some of them are actually pending. And that is why I am doing this video, so that I can put you up to date. Because anyone planning to import a vehicle from Japan, from Europe, from the US, a used vehicle, then this information will be very, very relevant for you, because you don't want to import your car and then when it arrives at the port of Mombasa, you are not sure how much tax you are going to pay for it. So what happened is that KRA reviewed what we call the CRSP, which is the current retail selling price. So what happens is that even if you look at the price of any good that you have bought in the last 5 years, you will notice that the price goes up every year. Okay, if we were buying bread, let's say 40 bob 5 years ago, right now we are buying that bread at 60 bob. So that is the current retail selling price. So what KRA did, they reviewed the current retail selling price of vehicles, because when you bring a vehicle from Japan, how the taxation is determined, it is determined by comparing how much a similar vehicle, brand new in Kenya, would retail. Okay, let's say you are bringing in, a Mazda CX-5. The current retail selling price in Kenya for a brand new Mazda CX-5 2025, it's, let's say, 6 million. Okay, once that is set, when you bring in a vehicle from Japan, let's say a 2018 Mazda CX-5, then they will count the depreciation rate and they will give it at around 65%. So the tax that you will pay, or the value for your vehicle, will be, the current retail selling price times the depreciation. And then from that point, they will be able to know what is the current value of your vehicle, so that they can now apply the tax into that current value. Okay, so that is not the lesson for today. The lesson that I want to give you is, with regard to the ongoing court cases, several dates, and what happened after every court hearing, or whether it actually took place, and where we are at this point and time, so that you can plan your importation journey accordingly. So these regulations were introduced by KRA on 1st of July 2025, and I have said that the biggest change was in the new CRSP. So what KRA did was mostly to increase the CRSP value for some vehicles, and that will of course reflect into the value of the vehicle that you bring after depreciation, and then the taxation is definitely going to go high, because the CRSP value for some very, very commonly used vehicles. Actually, the problem with this is that it was affecting the popular vehicles that we are going to see here, that their prices were going to go up. So certain models and brands were, identified by several analysts that their prices were going to go down. For instance, the Subarus were going to become very cheap, especially the 2018 models and above of Subaru Forester. Okay, the model code of SKE and SK9, their tax actually at this time, or the old tax, a Subaru Forester, the popularly known the e-boxers, their tax is around 1.4 million Kenya shilling. But with the new tax, those Subaru, their tax was going down to around 700,000. So close to half the amount of, the current tax rates. So if your e-boxer right now is costing around 3.5 in Mombasa, then if this taxation was to be effected, then your e-boxer, you could buy it at 2.5. So that is how significant this taxation was. And some people actually went very fast to make their orders for the Foresters. I remember very well. And right now, because as we'll see here, the tax has not come into effect, they are preparing to pay, very, very heavy tax amount. So it is important sometime before you take action, you need to anticipate also resistance from people who will go to court and, block the enforcement of certain laws. So other vehicles that were going to become very cheap were the Peugeots, okay, especially the 308 and the 3008 and the 5008 models. They are very, very good compact crossovers, and I think the 5008, it's already an SUV. Actually, the 5008, the taxation was going down from almost 1.2 down to 360,000. So, a reduction of close to almost 900,000. So that was a very, very significant thing. And some people are like now saying Peugeot were going to become the most dominant brand and vehicles on the Kenyan roads, including now the Subaru Foresters. They were going to become the cheapest crossover SUVs. Then the Mazdas were going to go up, especially the CX5, the Atenzas, but not with a very big margin. From what I saw, it was going up by like 300,000. Right now, the CX5, the tax rate is around 850,000 for the diesel and then 730,000 for the petrol. But now with the new taxation, it was going to hit almost 1 point something. The Toyotas, I told you, the most popularly used vehicles were going to increase in tax, especially the Allion, the Axio, the Fielders, and also most significantly, the small vehicles. These vehicles that are used for taxi, the Suzuki Alto, the Nissan Note, the Nissan March, their tax was actually going up by like 300,000. Because, for instance, someone was telling me Nissan Note, the tax is around 260,000, but right now it was going to go to around 460. So people went to court to block this, but especially the dealers, because the dealers were feeling like their fast-moving vehicles were going to cost more if this tax come into effect. But direct importers, people like you and me, were feeling like we need this tax to be passed so that we can get access to these big vehicles right now at a cheaper price. So what happened is that, the Association of Automotive, Auto Bazaar Association of Kenya, they went to court, and some other individuals. So there were 2 court cases, one in Kisumu and another one in Mombasa, which led to the suspension of this duty. I think a week after 1st of July, and the first hearing was scheduled for 17th of July. Okay, so both in Mombasa and in Kisumu. I read from, a guy who updates this information online that the hearing actually did not take place on 17th. It was again postponed to 22nd of July. So the same month, so like almost a few days later. On 22nd of July, nothing took place. It was postponed to 28th of July. On 28th of July, nothing took place. It was again postponed to 29th of August. So, and this is both for Kisumu court case and the one in Mombasa. So on 22nd of August, so like a week ago, nothing actually came out, no clear communication from the guy who actually updates this information for the Auto Bazaar Association of Kenya. And they said that the dealers have been advised to continue using the current tax rates of 2019 until further notice. So nothing is going to change right now. And what people have analyzed from the previous dates when this hearing was supposed to take place, they said that they think this thing will never come to see the light of day. But that is just from the analyst, because it is still something that is ongoing, and anyone planning to import their vehicle, at least right now, they should not anticipate using this current this suspended tax rates, because it might take a very, very long time before they come into effect. Because whoever updated me told me that the dealers were advised to continue using the current tax rates until the matter is determined. And the matter to be determined is not easy, because it is more of stakeholder engagement, because the Auto Bazaar Association, like said, they were not involved in the consultation process. And also there was no logic to determine how this CRSP and the depreciation rate were determined so that the most popular vehicles can become more expensive and the least and luxurious vehicles to become more cheaper. So I think they wanted like a very logical formula showing how the increase is taking place, why some models are favored more than the others. If it is an increase, let there be a linear increase. Let there be like a 1% increase. If you are referring to let's say inflation, to increase the CRSP, let's say what has been the annual rate of inflation, then we add that into the current retail selling price, and then that will help determine the current value of the vehicle you bring from Japan after depreciation. But like things were done very randomly according to Auto Basal guys, and they are saying that those things need to be determined. But anyway, those are just my reviews from what I have read online. And I invite you guys to tell me what is your take, and then how this affects you in your journey to import a vehicle.